California mass shooting suspect kills himself. The motive behind Saturday night's attack still unclear. Germany indicates it won't stand in the way if Poland decides to send Leopard 2 tanks to Ukraine. And abortion supporters rally in the U.S., marking the 50th anniversary of the now overturned Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision. Hello and welcome to TVB News. U.S. President Joe Biden has ordered that flags at the White House and other government agencies be lowered to half staff following the mass shooting in Monterey Park, California. A gunman killed 10 people at a ballroom dance hall during Lunar New Year celebrations Saturday night near Los Angeles. The attacker then fled the scene and killed himself when approached by police on Sunday. Tracy Furness reports.
Authorities searched for a motive after a gunman killed 10 people and injured 10 more at the Star Ballroom Dance Studio in Monterey Park during Lunar New Year celebrations. The gunman, 72-year-old Hu Can-tran, was involved in an incident at another dance venue, the Lai Lai Ballroom in nearby Alhambra, just 20 minutes after the shooting in Monterey Park. Witnesses at the second venue were able to grab the gun Tran was holding. No one was shot and Tran fled. Police described the gun as a semi-automatic pistol with an extended magazine. The gunman's van was found Sunday in Torrance, just 34 kilometers from the second venue.
The white van entered a shopping center parking lot. When officers exited their patrol vehicle to contact the occupant, they heard one gunshot coming from within the van.
Police entered the van and found Tran dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Monterey Park is a city of about 60,000 people, mostly Chinese immigrants and first-generation Asian Americans. The shooting took place in the heart of its downtown, where red lanterns decorated the streets for the Lunar New Year festivities. The celebrations in Monterey Park is one of California's largest. But officials cancelled Sunday's events following the shooting.
Unfortunately, I have now become a member of the club of members of Congress who've had a mass shooting in their districts. It has been happening on a daily basis now, and we can barely keep count of these mass shootings. Something has to be done. We have to stop having the availability of these assault weapons on the streets, so that it's so easy for somebody to just walk into an establishment and shoot people and ruin their lives.
It feels very gloomy. I'm pretty sure all our hearts are heavy, and I'm very happy to see the community come together. However, it's under a bad circumstance.
U.S. President Joe Biden said he and First Lady Jill Biden were praying for those killed and injured in the shooting. He ordered flags at the White House and other government agencies lowered to half staff to honor the victims. The attack in Monterey Park is the deadliest shooting since May 2022, when a gunman killed 19 students and 2 teachers at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Back here at home, Hong Kong reported 2,271 new COVID infections today, including 41 imported cases. It's the second consecutive day that the city's daily caseload has dipped below the 3,000 mark. 49 more patients succumbed to the virus. Meanwhile, Secretary for Health Lo Chung-mau said it is possible to lift the mask mandate in a gradual and orderly manner after the Lunar New Year. And he expects the second phase of reopening the city's border with the mainland will come soon. Christy Kahn reports.
3 days ago, the government announced an adjustment to the city's mask mandate. From January 26, people will be exempted from wearing face masks under certain circumstances. Hosts or speakers can take off their face masks while taking part in religious activities in religious premises. Mask wearing will be exempted for participants who are having a toast on stage or having food or taking a drink at an exhibition booth. Speaking on a radio program today, Secretary for Health Lo Chung-Mao said the authorities will consider further easing more restrictions after the Lunar New Year. He added that the relaxation doesn't mean the government has given up its fight against the pandemic. Lo also said the authorities have been closely monitoring the situation at each border control point in terms of the facilities and capacity. He reiterated that the SL government will continue discussions with mainland authorities, aiming to expedite the second phase of the border reopening. Christy Khan, TVB News.
In Henan, a surge in the water level swept away several visitors at a popular tourist site near the Yellow River on the first day of the Lunar New Year. At least 2 people died and 7 others remain missing. Mainland media cited a witness rescued from the flash flood who said many visitors swam in the river, which is downstream from the Sanmanxia Dam in Henan province. That's despite warning signs not to do so. The witness said many were washed away after the water level surged to 1.8 meters high in a matter of minutes. A day after the tragedy, local authorities flagged the incident as a drowning accident, but did not explain the cause of the river surge. And another fatality at a tourist site on the same day, this time in Sichuan. A hot air balloon crashed to the ground, killing 1 person and leaving at least 3 injured. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki said today that his country will ask Germany for permission to send Leopard 2 main battle tanks to Ukraine. He also indicated that Poland may make its own decision on the German-made tanks if necessary, with Berlin hinting that it may not oppose such a move. Meanwhile, former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a surprise trip to Kiev, vowing the UK's continued support in Ukraine's war with Russia. Nazvi Karim reports.
2 European leaders united in their unwavering support for Ukraine, but still failing to reach an agreement on the supply of main battle tanks. Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz is under the most pressure, given the German-made Leopard 2 tank is deemed best suited to rough terrain on the eastern front lines of the war. Scholz has been reluctant to send tanks to Ukraine because of fears that such a move may lead to Russian escalation. The German leader insists on consultation with allies such as the United States. Other European countries willing to give their Leopards are obliged to seek re-export approval from Germany. But a breakthrough may have been achieved, with Poland saying it would not wait for Berlin's go-ahead, and German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock telling French television that they would not object. At a summit in Paris with Scholz, French President Emmanuel Macron said France may send Leclerc tanks to Ukraine, provided it does not put his own country's security at risk. At a contact group meeting of Ukraine's allies last week, billions of dollars worth of military support was pledged, including Stryker and Bradley fighting vehicles from the US. Still, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is frustrated at the lack of progress on Leopard tanks. Adding to his problems, on Sunday he sacked Vasyl Lozinski, Deputy Minister of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure Development, after allegations he embezzled funds meant for rebuilding the country. Zelensky, though, is happy with Britain's contribution so far. He hailed the arrival in Kiev of former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who was in Ukraine in a private capacity, visiting areas outside the capital targeted by Russian attacks. Johnson reaffirmed the UK's and his continued support.
I wanted to talk to you about what I can do to be used to you. A foot soldier, a spear carrier, I will do whatever I can. Thank you so much.
Britain has promised 14 Challenger 2 tanks, and on Sunday, Kiev took delivery of a British military search and rescue helicopter to be used by Ukraine's Navy. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
French and German leaders have held talks marking the 60th anniversary of a friendship treaty signed by previous leaders Charles de Gaulle and Konrad Adenauer. In a show of pageantry and unity, there were speeches at the Sorbonne University and a joint cabinet meeting at the Élysée Palace in Paris. Matthew Bray reports.
This was a summit that essentially papered over differences between Paris and Berlin on a range of issues. The meeting between the two governments was meant to have gone ahead in October last year, but was postponed due to differences on issues such as energy policy and defence procurement. In his Sorbonne address, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz paid tribute to the Elysée Treaty, a post-war reconciliation accord that laid the foundations for better Franco-German relations. The entire German cabinet was in Paris, along with 300 lawmakers from the two countries. French President Emmanuel Macron, alluding to the war in Ukraine, said, "At a time when history has come off its hinges, let us remain united and live up to the hope of those who preceded us." In a meeting of the cabinets at the Elysée, there was a joint statement later that pledged to stand with Ukraine as long as it takes. But the war has exposed the two mainstays of the European project who have different approaches to the energy crisis, inflation and future military investments. There is also division over finding funds which the French want from the European Union to make green investments in the industrial sector in response to US subsidies for green energy under Washington's Inflation Reduction Act. Berlin sees no need for a new sovereign EU fund. The two heavyweights only vaguely committed to an EU overhaul of the electricity market. France is preparing a large nuclear energy push. Germany naturally is sceptical. And there was only lukewarm words from the French to get involved in pooling air defence capabilities that Germany and a dozen other European nations are planning. There was a commitment to develop a joint roadmap on hydrogen that would see a pipeline project transporting green hydrogen from renewable sources extended to Germany from France, Spain and Portugal. Matthew Bray, TVB News.
In the United States, abortion supporters rallied by the thousands to demand protection for reproductive rights. The move also marks the 50th anniversary of the now overturned Roe v. Wade U.S. Supreme Court decision that established federal protections for the procedure. Thousands of pro-choice supporters marched on the streets, then filled the halls of the Wisconsin State Capitol building Sunday. Abortions were legal in Wisconsin until the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade last year, reverting back to an 1849 law that criminalizes abortion. Voters in Wisconsin go to the polls February 21st to elect a new Supreme Court justice. If a pro-choice candidate wins the seat, the state abortion ban could be overturned. And still ahead, a look at Chikung temple rituals in Shatin. The hospital authority offers home exercise training to help the elderly work on their muscle strength. And low visibility in parts of the city this morning. Welcome back. Today is the second day of the Lunar New Year. In accordance with tradition, worshippers made their way to Chikung Temple in Shatin in hopes that their wishes will be granted by the temple's namesake deity. Several officials also attended the historical shrine, including the Secretary for Security. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Since early morning, scores of residents seized the opportunity to pray for the city's health at the historic Chikung Temple in Shatin, one of Hong Kong's most prominent shrines dating back to the Ming Dynasty. Every year, believers follow the tradition of praying to the shrine's namesake deity, Chikung, a Song Dynasty general who, according to legend, possessed the power to suppress plagues. As of this afternoon, Chikung Temple had reported around 9,200 visitors. Among the temple's visitors today was Secretary for Security Chris Tang. He brought along gift bags for the medical service personnel stationed at the religious venue. Many tourists have also made their way to Chikung Temple to witness the New Year spectacle after the relaxation of travel restrictions.
Well, it's my first time in this temple, and I think it's really, really great to see so many people coming to worship here, and it gives a flavor of Hong Kong culture.
It's very crowded and it's also hot, but it's good that I get to experience it. In my country, the temple is like golden and there's like pagoda and stuff. It's just different architecture, but the way people like go and do this thing is the same.
I come every year, usually on the first day or second day. What I like is that they have a very colorful display of all these things that they sell and incense and all these things.
Lawmaker and Heung Yi-kok chairman Kenneth Lau also participated in Kao Chim, a traditional fortune-telling practice involving the shaking of fortune sticks inside a cylinder and written oracles. Some fortune tellers interpreted one of Lau's written oracles as a sign of hope for the future of Hong Kong, but also added that the government could only achieve prosperity for the city by listening more to public opinions. Che Kung Temple is closed for 5 hours in the evening, but will reopen to the public again at 11 tonight until tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Here in Sha Tin, Che Kung Temple remains fully packed with worshippers and tourists throughout this morning. Visitors wishing for some luck this year can get traditional fortune poems from temple staff before getting them interpreted by local fortune tellers. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The Hong Kong and Kowloon Electrical Appliances Merchants Association reminds users of karaoke machines to be extra careful when plugging them into electrical sockets. The warning comes after authorities attributed the possible cause of the 3-alarm fire in mid-levels yesterday to a malfunctioning karaoke device. The association said these machines are usually made in China, Japan, or South Korea. Their 2-pin plugs don't fit the 3-pronged socket in Hong Kong. When using adapters which are loose-fitting for these karaoke devices, flammable objects nearby could catch fire from the spark from the poor contact between the plugs. The association suggests that users use no more than one adapter and avoid using the extension sockets for these gadgets. The hospital authority issued a special reminder to the city's seniors not to let fall accidents ruin their festive spirit. This comes along with a 6-step home exercise that helps the elderly work on their muscle strength and sense of balance. Jackie Lin walks us through the regimens.
In Hong Kong, 1 in every 3 seniors aged 65 or above has tripped or fallen over before. 1/10 of the fall accidents have resulted in serious injuries. In this festive season, the hospital authority has reminded the elderly to take extra care against falls and fractures. That's especially with more exertion and fall-prone activity in rituals such as the spring cleaning tradition.
These are the Chinese New Year's, so there's a lot of people outside, and we suggest the elderly don't go to the crowd, or if they want to go outdoors, try not to follow the passengers so close, so that they can see the road in front of them, any uneven surface or slippery surface.
Making things worse was the pandemic.
The elderly become more homebound and with a less exercise, so causing more deconditioning of the muscles and joints.
A vicious cycle that could be ended by this simple home exercise. Demonstrated by physiotherapist Kevin Tao, it starts with warming up your ankles like this. Then followed by 3 muscle strengthening moves. First, a slow side kick. Keep your back and kneecap straight with toes pointing forward. Repeat this leg lifting move 10 times for each leg. The second one, stretch your leg forward like this. Point your toes upward. Hold it for 5 seconds each time. The third is this squatting exercise. The last 2 steps are for training seniors' balance. They include standing on tiptoes and standing heel to toe. When the elderly perform these fall prevention exercises, Kevin said if conditions allow, prepare 1 more chair nearby. Make sure it's not rickety. That's for extra support when you lose balance or for you to take a break during the exercises. It doesn't take a million strides, but just 6 steps of exercise to keep our city's elderly on their feet. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Meantime, the Hong Kong Observatory says a cold front will move across the coastal areas of Guangdong overnight. It will be cold tomorrow and in the morning on the 4th day of the Lunar New Year, with temperatures in the urban areas dropping to around 10 degrees Celsius. We leave you with the scenes of low visibility in parts of the city this morning.